and International Affairs is so happy to host the first official speaking event with Mayor Joe Ganim here on campus. And we're really thrilled that there's a rebirth of a partnership between the City of Bridgeport and the University of Bridgeport. And now, at last, the university has a true advocate and a friend in the mayor's office. So we're going to start things off by showing you the challenges that Mayor Joe Ganim faced in his first 100 days of office. It's a short 2-minute video, and for more detail, in the back of the room, it's not what's been placed on your chairs, but in the back of the room, pick up this little book that was put out as a companion to the video, and it has great detail about the challenges of the first 100 days. I was very happy to co-write and design this for the mayor because I believe in him so much. So we'll watch the video, and then Mayor Ganim will take over from there.
Will faithfully discharge, according to the law, the duties of that position to the best of your ability, so help you God. I do, so help you God.
Would you have the opportunity to swear in 29 new recruits of the Bridgeport Police Department? I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut.
PSEG announced that they will shut down coal operations here in Bridgeport.
This may be the largest single private investment in the city of Bridgeport in its history.
I want to make right the areas where I did make mistakes. I don't know a better motivator for good quality, transparent, and effective government. We'll continue to move Bridgeport forward, I like to say, for everything that's going on positive, but also to improve those things that need to be improved on. One of the challenges in many of our neighborhoods is just trying to walk on the sidewalks without tripping. Let's make it as friendly an environment as we can, at least for people that are doing business here, to get the customers in and out.
Or to rebuild the connection between government and the people.
Certainly there's a redemption story in this, but once you get past the redemption story, it's really about people that want a better quality of life. And we need to commit to making this a better city.
The past is done, and the future, our future, has now begun.
Thank you, Sue. Sue, thank you. Dean, I don't know where Dean is, but I want to thank you for all that you do and for your kind words. Mr. President, I know he had to leave. Okay, and I know you have to leave because I know your schedule is pressing. It's pressing because you make such a commitment to so many people, and I want to thank you for your kind words, your sharing your vision, but your day-to-day commitment to leadership of this university, this great university, and the partnership that we continue to build on together with the city, with the people of the city of Bridgeport, with you, with the faculty, with the trustees, and with your students. I don't know that, we talk about the video and the progress in the city, but I don't know of a better start of a partnership, one that was at best fractured before this 100 days or this 4 months, and one that's come together so quickly in so many positive ways. So thank you very much. I'd like to give you a round of applause for what you do. Thank you. Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'll introduce through you. I think you know I have kind of a special relationship with Sue Katz. Professionally, we go back decades. And I think before you were even with the university, right, Sue?
Yes, 91.
91. So I knew her or had her, so to speak, before this university did, and understood and recognized her talents. And I know her students, I don't know how many of those in the room here are your students, but if you've had that opportunity to learn, to listen, or to admire her or her work, or to participate, as whoever did, I don't think I'm the best looking subject there, but you did a pretty good job with me, whoever, I took the name down, who put it together? Elijah. Is Elijah here?
No.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank Elijah for her work, too. You have a real opportunity to learn from the best. And I can tell you that not just as somebody who likes Sue Katz because she's nice and sweet and friendly and funny, but because I've not only admired her work, but I've lived the results of her work. Her photography, her message, her understanding what it is, in large part in my life anyways, or in my experience, has been through a political context, meaning where you had to reach out in whatever way you could to everybody and anybody who was in the universe of possibly voting or liking you, and explain to them what in this case me, what I was all about, and why we wanted them to be a part of our vision or my vision for the future. And Sue did better, and she's won certainly the appropriate number of, I guess, national awards and acclaims. Sue, thank you so much for pulling us together. Appreciate it. There's a lot going on in the city, and I know there's a lot going on in or at this wonderful university. I took an hour off this afternoon and jogged Seaside Park, and that was my moment of kind of quiet, kind of getting out of the craziness. The police chief knows what I'm talking about. He has it in his office every day too, as you probably all do in your life. But when you come down and you come up here on the 9th floor and get to look out, you take a deep breath. Your brain kind of takes a deep breath, and that moment of kind of serenity kind of brings you back to a part of Bridgeport that when you're downtown and you're doing your job or whatever it is, you kind of don't get to experience. So I'm kind of saying with some kind of jealousy, those that are continuing to matriculate through this great university, or those that work here or coach here, to recognize what, as the president said, he called it a pearl or a jewel or the natural beauty that we have here. I did go to school here. I went to law school here from 1981 through 1983, and the law library used to be on the top floor where the president's office was, so we always had the opportunity to get pleasantly distracted by the view, and I'm glad to kind of reminisce looking out at Long Island Sound here, so that's nice. And I thought, and Sue gave me some speaking points on some things that maybe we might want to talk about, or I could kind of bring up as a newly re-elected mayor of the city who, as I just mentioned, I'm very interested in the partnership with the university. And a couple of those topics, one, I'll just go through them a little bit, and then I want to kind of open it up to questions, because with such a diverse audience or group here, I'm not sure, there may be some things that are interesting to you that I haven't thought about, even that Professor Katz hasn't thought about, and I'd love to have the opportunity to kind of hear your thoughts or hear your questions and see if I can be kind of nimble on my feet and try and either respond or kind of have a dialogue with you about them. I thought that might be more interesting than hearing me talk. But I think there's some things that are well worth mentioning to kind of just give context of where Bridgeport is right now, and kind of the short experience or road we've been traveling since getting elected with Sue Katz's help and so many others. We took over this city. I took over the city as mayor. A number of people that are here are part of the administration, including the police chief, who's been recognized and is doing a tremendous job. We took it over and found out once we got in there that all was not well in the financial conditions of and the management of city government. John Gomes, the CAO, is kind of nodding in the affirmative and rolling his eyes because he's been charged really with trying to help understand the challenges. But with that, we've had to kind of pull things apart and have just begun the process of putting them back together. Kind of the stuff you don't see in the streets as much. It's really the internal operations of the state's largest city that services certainly all of you here, but well over 145,000 people that live here, and I don't know, another 10 or 20,000 that probably work or come in and out of the city on a daily basis. Everything from the police department, to the health department, to the finance department, and trying to reconstruct and put in place what's going to be critical, not just for the next year, but for the next 4 years, or for I hope if we do it right, for the next 10 years, in order to make sure that the city government that serves all of us and that is now recommitted to this partnership is fiscally sound and is able to not only run what's inside the building, but deliver the critical services that so many of us all rely on. Go back to what's a theme that is kind of mentioned by the president about this university being the safest. I don't think this has been formally announced yet, but since we've gotten our arms around city government and we've had a new chief in place, and for the past 4 months, I think I don't think it's premature to note that this is now being, with statistics that'll be announced shortly, is going to be known as the safest large city in Connecticut under the leadership of Chief Perez. So,
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy and I feel like I'm loving you. Love you such a sweet thing, good enough to eat thing, and it's just what I'm gonna do. Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy.
we've come miles from where this city was a year ago, and you're only as good in the world of government and public safety as today is. But we've made a strong commitment to every part of this city, to not only the perception but the reality of making it safe. And so when you come from, if you've come from afar, if you've come from a neighborhood in Bridgeport, or you've come from a neighborhood in Asia, we want you to, when you're talking about this city, or when you're here, or this university, first and foremost, along with your great professors and the beauty out the window, we want people to know it's safe. And it's known as a safe city for all of us. So that's always going to be a theme of this administration. And we took over a city that was $20 million in deficit, and we struggled to reduce the costs and to consolidate and to put it in place as we move forward over the next couple of months, to be on solid financial ground without increasing spending. But one place that we did, and the only place where we made any substantial discretionary increase in spending, was in public safety. Now, we're going to clean the streets and we're going to fix the potholes. I heard somebody who told me there was some potholes, I think it was on Goduli Street, and we're going to take care of those, and we're going to take care of making sure the city's clean, and we're going to support economic development. But at bottom, the fundamental services are critical, and public safety here, because I know it's always can be a challenge for cities, will be on top. As you saw a little bit more in the video, there's been a lot of positive things in such a short period of time. Even here in the South End, two of the biggest things, without even having to mention the university yet, where there's a whole story that I want to talk about. One is, if you look out, I think we can see it out that window, the coal burning plant. It is the last coal burning plant in the state. I don't know how much farther the geography goes, but if you haven't heard these plans already, the announcement is that coal plant will be decommissioned or shut down within the next 5 years. And for those of you that are astute to the environment and what coal and oil burning does that goes on there, it is not the healthiest way to produce energy, we know that, probably the least. Now, it's being transitioned to natural gas, which is not perfect, but it is miles and miles ahead of where we are. We will decommission, you'll see a private company called PSEG. They've announced a $550 million, a little over $500 million of private investment, the largest, as was quoted in the video. We believe the largest probably in the city's, maybe my recent history, or that I can go back, single investment of private money coming in to create jobs, create tax-based growth, which helps that other story I was telling you about balancing a budget, and allowing us to transition to a much cleaner way to provide energy to Bridgeport and beyond. So that's a nice little announcement. And with that, for those that might be involved in the community, the company wanted to make the right approach, and they wanted to be good corporate citizen. They put aside, I think it's about $2 million for community reinvestment into strategic categories that will continue with the theme of renewable energy or environmentally sound projects. And so those that might be, or those that might want to be, I think there's some role that the university or members of the university are playing in that. There'll be a reinvestment fund, which not only goes well above the jobs they're creating, the some 300 construction jobs they're going to create, and the $10 or $15 million in property taxes that they're going to bring in, the $550 million investment over and above that. So it's a nice way to welcome a large investment, a large corporate present, and will soon be the city's largest taxpayer, as now a good community partner in the city. Also in the South End, and again, this will both segue into the UB Bridgeport partnership, we recently had a grant. Grant is money, in this case, from the federal government that you don't have to pay back, that usually is designated for a specific purpose. This grant is a $50 million called Resiliency Grant. I know it's kind of, what does that mean? Well, it's a grant that was designated Bridgeport. It's the largest single federal unmatched grant that, again, I can remember in Bridgeport's history. And it's targeted for the South End. And what it's going to do, I can tell you the technical things about what it's going to do because of the flood, because of the increase in the water levels and all that kind of stuff. It's going to unlock parcels in the South End and the university in some ways for more investment that they couldn't do before. Because that money is going to be targeted to meet requirements that the federal government has now instituted for banks to lend on certain investments in the South End. And the president mentioned the Remington site. That's a prime example. Tens of millions of dollars have been teed up to invest in the Remington site, which you all know. I don't know if you know it as the Remington site, but if you face the water, it's the site over there where the demolition recently took place on the other side of Seaside Park. It used to be Remington Shaver. That was headquarters, the national headquarters for Remington Shaver. They've long gone. But there's tens of million dollars, I don't know the exact amount, it may be in the brochure, of development that's been planned for that site. That the demolition is a result of that. The owners have invested money there, but they could not get lending, conventional lending, until this grant was in place and this resiliency money could be applied to a thing called dry egress. So it's kind of like a lot of kind of governmental gobbledygook, but at bottom, it tells you two things in the last two stories. One, we've had the largest investment, $500 million of private money in the city of Bridgeport. It's going to create jobs, going to create clean energy in this last 4 months. We've had the largest single gift or grant of federal money here in the South End to unlock or allow development parcels and create jobs and entertainment centers and hopefully restaurants in the South End, which maybe otherwise would have challenges in getting investment, all to complement things that are going on in the city, things that are going on in the state, because the resiliency grant will go beyond, it'll play into the waterfront, but to complement the progress that we're seeing here at this great university.
Everything is ruined.
It's okay. We're ready. When the things that matter most are on the line, make sure we are too. The Fire and Water Cleanup Team at 1-800-SERVE-PRO. Like it never even happened.
I've had the pleasure in my, now I guess it's 4 months, to meet with the Board of Trustees, reintroduce myself to them, but then to do some real work about what UB plans on doing for its future in partnership with what the City of Bridgeport plans on doing with the South End. And we spent a number of hours in New York City with the city's then Economic Development Director, and selected members of the Board of Trustees to understand the plans that have been drawn by Sasaki, which is a world-renowned planner for perfect professionals who kind of took a look at the assets that the university has and how it plays into the South End, and how the university and the city can partner on your plans, meaning the university's plans, and the city's plans. And the smaller stuff is significant. The interns that, I don't know if you know, but some of the students intern at City Hall. I've had the pleasure of coming in and applauding the sports teams, the gymnastics teams. We've had the volleyball team down for giving them awards, met the baseball team, went in the gym and got shamed by standing next to all the swimmers who are all, shaped like this, and to admire that. My daughter came down, and her gymnastics team got to meet, the world, or the nationally renowned, champion gymnastics teams here. And that partnership is, and the president gave me readmitted me to the Wheeler Center personally, so I get to kind of come down and use the pool and stuff. So that's kind of the soft kind of thing. But the big stuff is really making a commitment to developing and redeveloping and building and seeing the university grow and make progress as the city grows and makes progress. One of the things we talked about in that strategic meeting was the gateway. I call it the gateway to the university. In some ways, you looked at it as the gateway to the south end. But if you think about the Park Avenue entranceway to UB, and you follow it all the way up to kind of the highway and the railroad tracks, that area there, and all the way down, we have decided will be enhanced as a gateway entranceway to the south end and to the university, so that when you travel there, it becomes the most aesthetically pleasing green space, open. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, I can have these, kind of somewhat mayoral kind of visions, but they don't mean anything. It's what the planners put together. But the idea is to focus on things like that, and on that in particular, as one area that the city and the university can make substantial physical, visible progress that benefits the south end, it benefits the city, and it benefits the university. We're also doing other things around the city that I think are critical, and that, whether you have the chance or the opportunity, or have had the chance or the opportunity. Way back when, in my last stint as mayor, we made a substantial commitment, probably the largest financial investment in any part of the city was in the south end. When we decided, okay, we want to do more than just be let me put it this way, as we were an old industrial city making a transition, what are some of the things we wanted to focus on and invest in? And some of them became sports and entertainment. And we said, okay, if we're going to do this, where do we want to do this? And what do we want to do? We talked about bringing in a minor league baseball team, which obviously we've had now for, I guess, almost 18 years at Bridgeport Bluefish. And we just said, where do we want to put this? This can really make a difference. Do we want to do it an open space, maybe up somewhere else, or do we want to make it a critical part of the more densely populated areas and make it a part of, some cities have done, of the downtown, in this case, the south end of the downtown. And that's what we did. We tore down some buildings years ago. We built the ballpark, we built the arena. We made that the anchor to the South Main Street, and in large part an anchor of urban renewal and urban development in the south end. And those of you that have traveled downtown, we've seen the addition of a number of restaurants, and we still need, and we're still working now in this Ganim administration now on the north end of Main Street. Those of you that have had the opportunity to travel up there, to me, it's an unacceptable residual of neglect over a number of decades, and I think most emphatically over the last number of years. Now, that said, is a very negative statement. There are 4 groups of developers that are vigorously working to restore a number of those buildings with tax credits and various degrees of environmental cleanup, so that you need to know what you see and what's happening there sometimes is a little bit deceiving. I took the graffiti off the buildings, and we've asked them to clean up, and we've taken down some of the Jersey barriers. So even during this, when developers were in today, and we're like, where are you on this? And they explained, and I'm like, well, that's okay, but it needs to still be aesthetically pleasing or visibly pleasing, even if it's a facade, until we can get the part of North Main Street to the point where other parts of our downtown and our city are as well. Steel Point, you've heard it mentioned before, is part of a vision of decades that started to actually turn dirt, I don't know, I guess you could say 15 years ago or so. Now it's developed into likely the most significant waterfront development, I think, along the entire Connecticut seaboard. We opened a small retail operation there 2 days ago, T-Mobile, where you get your phones. Kind of like, okay, why are you doing this thing? It's T-Mobile, it's just a small retailer. Well, it's significant for, and the second part of this means more to me than the first, but that a major, you know, a AAA credit tenant is now locating in Bridgeport, along with the other ones, along with Bass Pro and Starbucks and so on. But they said, yeah, our last store was in the Danbury Mall, and the one before that was in the Trumbull Mall. So my visual on that was, you know how big the Danbury Mall is. Maybe some of you haven't been to the Trumbull Mall, maybe you haven't been to the Danbury Mall. The significance of the venues that they picked to locate. So if that's of any significance as to what is on the horizon for Steel Point, it'll give you some kind of perspective. 250 units or more. Actually, they're talking about overall 1,500 units will be built on their waterfront housing, waterfront development, a hotel, movie theater, and a list of others yet to be announced. Part of, and Sue asked me to talk about this too, our waterfront plan, comprehensive waterfront plan, which is recognizing that we are a city, we're a great city, and on top of that, we have one of the greatest resources that many cities don't have, out the window. We have Long Island Sound. We have 24 miles of waterfront or coastline, including up the river, in a city that's only some 17 square miles. And we recognize that. We began to recognize it way back. Everybody saw it as part of what should happen on Steel Point. And with the transition on the power plant, we'll see more there. And we know this as a jewel, maybe not for development, but for enjoyment with Seaside Park, which will always be there, and it can only be enhanced more and more along with the university. There's so much more, but I touched on all the points that Professor Katz asked me to touch on, as a good student should. And I think more important than that, because some of that was probably stuff you wanted to hear about and stuff that was like, okay, I want to open it up to, with the professor's permission, open it up to questions.
We're going to pass around, so
And you can ask, by the way, you have a right to ask me. Everybody, anyone from the audience, you want to ask any questions about anything about to do with the city, please feel free.
3 quick things. There's a half a block of road from Atlantic on Myrtle to UB. It looks like a war zone. It looks like the Bronx. It needs to get significantly redone, number one. Number two, there's going to be an accident at Lafayette and Gregory unless we put in 3-way stop signs. Because there's so many people parking at the church there that it's basically impossible coming out of Gregory to see anybody on Lafayette. So we need to get 3-way stop signs to prevent a future accident. Lastly, on Railroad Avenue, at the intersection of Lafayette, there's a small community garden where about a dozen families with their kids grow tomatoes and strawberries and all kinds of things. The trouble is the water is supposed to come from the house next door. And I think last year the city was paying for the water, but this year it's not connected. And all those plots of ground are gonna die.
We will take note of them and try. I don't know about the water one. I don't know how you got that? I got a thumbs up from the CAO, so he's got it.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm very thankful to have this chance to attend this meeting, and I easily imagine I can have the chance to speak something. I'm from China. I'm a visiting scholar here, and actually I'm the vice president of my college, with which the UB is the first cooperation college in China. This year I came here. Last year November. I like this place because 4 years ago I stayed here for 1 month. I like this campus. I like the seaside. Everything. Actually I can choose other places to stay, but I choose here because I like it. I enjoy the water, the clean water, the sky. I take a walk along the seaside every day. Yesterday I went to Sturbridge, so I didn't.
Starbucks?
Yes, Sturbridge Village.
Oh, okay.
So I
Sturbridge
didn't
Village.
walk here. But today, this morning while I was taking the walk there, it made me not really feel very good. Because what, from the playground to the rock, there are many trashes. I picked up a lot of trashes with my bare hands into the cans. And I collected 3 big baby diapers.
Diapers, yeah.
Yeah, diapers, very big, and many boxes. And I can see some bottles, they are floating on the water. Yeah, it made me very sad. So I talked to a friend of mine, a judge, and I said, maybe I'm thinking about tomorrow I will take a trash bag. Yeah? Because it reminds me of something. You know, I'm from China. Years ago, when I was very young, we used to have these very beautiful skies. But now we don't, you know. I think American people, they should know to trash, how to say, this kind of very beautiful things, right? So, you know, there are many trashes along the rocks. I just pick them out. And I think it's an easy job. So don't mention the sheets of the dogs. So, yeah, really, it made me sad, really. Today I feel very sad about that. So this, I didn't imagine I can have this chance to say so, but thank you very much.
No, thank you. Shisha.
This afternoon, I'm talking with Mr. Doe about some cooperation between my college and this college. I will send many more students here, but I don't want them to say such kind of things.
Yeah, I think there's 2 pieces of that, as you pointed out. Thank you very much, by the way. One is citizens, people, and I think you're right. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. People don't respect and put things in the trash. On the city side, I did notice when I was out there today that they had raked the beach, and I did look in the trash barrels to see if they had been emptied. You know, but you're right. We need to make sure as we transition into our summer season that on the public service side, on the city side, and the Parks Department, that we're on top of it too. This is a problem in other places too. We have hot spots, we call them, in the city. We want to stay on top of all of them. The parks, this time of year, we just add what we call seasonal. So we add people, they're just coming on. And I see some are doing the job and the rest is being caught up. But I do appreciate it. And on the particular note of that area, since you mentioned it with people here, we'll make sure it gets picked up. And hopefully we'll get other people to encourage to follow the same and not to be throwing stuff out there. But thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Taekwon Davis. I'm a student at the University of Bridgeport. As you already know, it's probably one of the most diverse universities in the nation. We are the future of this country. And my question was, what can we do to help impoverished youth fulfill their dreams for this great country?
I think, I don't think there's enough of different answers to things that we can do in a positive note nationally or around the world. I mean, this is probably one of the, you said diverse, internationally, I don't know, you know, I could probably look it up, but we've got to have one of the most diverse international universities, certainly one of them in the country. But regardless of how we got here, and whether we're youth and a college level youth, whether it's a high school level youth, or even people entering jobs after, I think there's a variety of answers. We're trying on a local level to do as much as we can, but not being the whole answer. In other words, how do we create opportunities? You know, it starts from fundamentals. This is not the answer, but some of it's just after-school programs, and that's part of it. And that's you know, that could be on any level. Then there's job opportunities. There's the ability to have access to higher education, which is critical too. You know, I don't know if you do, but maybe some of us forget how much it's not a given that you have either the opportunity or the financial wherewithal to even become a product of the University of Bridgeport or another center, whether it's a state university, you might be less money, you get financial, to just have all of those opportunities. So I guess there's 3 or 4 answers. There's more than that, but 3 that I can touch on. One is on a fundamental level, we need to do more within our own community, create opportunities as best we can. Some of those in the areas of education, try and provide, as we do on a local level, the best quality we can within the confines that we have in a public school system, and beyond that. Create the ability for individuals academically to transition. University of Bridgeport's been wonderful at that, the partnership that the university has with our schools, and then job opportunities afterwards. And that's always, at best, a work in progress. Frankly, all of them are. But you mentioning it and us discussing it is part of it too. Just keep doing it, and thank you for what you're doing here too as well.
Mayor Ganim, what is your estimate as to how long it will take before one can drive through Bridgeport on the Connecticut Turnpike without seeing any burnt out or abandoned buildings?
Yeah, good point. We had a meeting on that earlier today. In one of the handouts, I'm going to point out the Cherry Street, if you flip to it. I don't know if you're that interested, I'll show it to you. A couple things that are probably too visible. It's probably the fourth or fifth page in. It's called Cherry Street Lost, 375 Howard. So one of the areas that's most visible, unfortunately, and I've had this challenge I started last time I was in, and not a lot has happened since then, but I think there's a renewed energy around the visual coming in, whether it's off the train or coming off the highway. So think about it. So we talked about, I don't know if Big Ray's here, about, and I don't know if they've done it yet, but actually doing that ride with the video, both sides. I don't know how many times you got to do it, both sides. Most of it's the southern to northern entry, and going through and identifying, and some of this is probably overkill, but this is our thought process. Every building that you see and what's your reaction to it, who owns it and why is it in that state of condition, where does it fit on a timeline, is it going to stay, is it going to go, is somebody investing in it, aren't they? Pleasantly surprised on the Cherry Street and on the most visible stuff that you're seeing coming in. The plan is in place. The first phase is set to go in the next couple of months. I'm hoping I can, on the buildings that the city's acquired now, can be the one on the bulldozer to do that symbolic knock the first building down. But there finally is, and the funding is in place for a large part of that. In my other life, and last time I was in, we did the State Street corridor, and spent a lot of time and energy redeveloping that whole corridor. Now the school's there. Chavez Bakery was the first one there. We put a police substation there. You have a variety of other businesses that are there. Now Hubble was taken down, as those that have been around for a while might recall. So it's that type of broad-based commitment, starting with, I think the largest we're going to see visibly is Cherry Street, is moving along. I started to say, we had a discussion on this earlier today. It jumped from the other one that bothered me so much is the North Main Street one on, why isn't that moving, why isn't that moving? This is the next visible one, but as you pointed out, the most visible for people coming in. And by the way, for the university, I get it. We're bringing people in from out of town, and the president, and we say, we're 50 miles from New York. You can come in from any place in the world and land in JFK, and you can be here in, less than 2 hours, hour and a half, depending on traffic. But when they come in, if they get to see this view, where do I sign? Right? I mean, who wouldn't? But we don't want and I'll call it the misconception, because I believe that it is, the misconception of the visuals to distract or deter our ability to be successful with everyone understanding how great not only this university is, but the city is. So we're on it. Is it happening fast enough? Never for me, but we're getting there, and I'm glad you brought the question up.
My name is Constance Vickers, and I'm a very proud alumna of the University of Bridgeport. Those of you in this room know that I bleed purple and white as much as anyone else, and I've also had the privilege to serve as the Vice President of the Alumni Association. So, being a young professional in Bridgeport, someone who loves this city, what are you doing to make sure that I stay? Because taxes, which you promised would not be raised, have been raised. I will not be able to afford to buy a house. I will have to pray that I have enough money to send my children to private schools. Why shouldn't I move to Stamford or New Haven?
Yeah. No, first of all, You make good points, and I'm sorry, sometimes some misinformation gets out there. Taxes haven't been raised, and the likely result of this budget, to back up a little bit, the last administration, no friend of this university's either, left a terrible mess. And I'm not complaining or crying, just telling you, just let's call it what it is. As I mentioned earlier, every department in city government needed to be revamped, and I'm using kind words. A $20 million budget deficit is not welcome news to anybody. But we're dealing with it. We're implementing for the tax question, we're implementing a thing called revaluation, which we all know is a state statute. Well, maybe we don't all know. It's a state statute that requires cities and towns to revalue everybody's property, because it changes. Sometimes the property values go up, sometimes they go down, sometimes yours goes up, mine goes down. We're putting that into place. We've set the budget up with less reliance on a tax levy than the prior administration's budget numbers really were. And if our budget goes through, that's again, there's a lot of variables, one being the state of Connecticut's got a $900 million deficit. But if our budget goes through, more than half, probably more than 60% of residential taxpayers in the city of Bridgeport will likely see a tax cut. I hope you're one of them. You can read, but wait till the process goes through on taxes. I've had a record for 10 years in a row, taking this city, when this university was teetering and when the city was bankrupt, of balancing budgets, keeping spending down, and holding the line on taxes for a decade. I want to match and beat that record if I can. Not because I'm a competitive guy, but because I think it's the right thing to do for this city and for every city. We want to make it affordable, but we also have to make sure that it's safe. As was mentioned here, it has to be clean. We have to support economic development to create job growth. A lot of those things are in place now. We want to have restaurants, places for young people from this university to say, hey, not only am I enjoying the Seaside Park, but I want to go eat somewhere. So balancing all of those things are the challenges in front of us. I want you to stay because you love this city. You've obviously have the same great history with the university that I have, and we need future leaders because I'm getting old.
State officials urge complete evacuation. Severe flooding is expected.
It's okay. We're ready.
When the things that matter most are on the line, make sure we are too. The storm response team at 1-800-SERVE-PRO. Like it never even happened.
At the same time, I'm an entrepreneur as well. My question is pretty simple. What are you going to do in order to promote new entrepreneurs coming up in this area? How will you help us?
I don't think we're doing enough in the areas yet in Bridgeport to be that place where we can say, gee, we're really the place to go for entrepreneurs. We're trying. And in this, the young stages of my new administration, it's an area where I think we can do more. There are some things that are helpful. If you come in with an idea, or whether it's investment or whatever, I'd like to believe that we have the infrastructure and the personnel in place to be responsive and to, at least in this part I think is accurate, that we can at least tell you, I know we can tell you what we have and that what we can do depending on what it is that your focus is or your interest is. That meaning what the city has. And then what else might be within the greater resources of agencies or groups that may be supportive in the city. And we can also say, and by the way, we work closely with the state of Connecticut, and this is what they have. And maybe we can help focus that program or that department towards your desired need or interest. And so I think at the very least those are the things, kind of in a vacuum of just general entrepreneurs. But I think it would be great. The premise of a part of the question is if I could be standing here telling you we have a center where that's what we do. We focus on attracting and helping germinate or grow ideas for entrepreneurs here, and that we're that we're that center. That would be the answer I would like to be able to give you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ganim.
Hey.
My name is Nicholas. I am a student here at the University of Bridgeport. And I also interned for a nonprofit organization downtown Bridgeport that focuses on educational advocacy and equity. So I wanted to ask you what your plan was to help close the achievement opportunity gap for the students in the Bridgeport public school system, because out of all the major cities in Connecticut, the Bridgeport public school students get the least amount of funding per student. So I want to know what your plan was to help the students get the resources that they need in order to excel and, do better.
Critical point. So here's what's going on, and I'm going to just kind of build on the question a little bit so we're in higher education and we have a great university and you're really privileged. In the public school systems in Connecticut, every city and town has their own public schools, for those that are familiar. And they all have different funding sources. Some of them predominantly based on the local community's wealth or lack of wealth. And then there's a distribution through the state of Connecticut, some federal money, but primarily there's a distribution through the state of Connecticut. We believe, as your question points out, to some extent, that it's an inequitable or unfair or disproportionate redistribution of funding. So cities and towns as diverse as Greenwich and even as New Haven would have enough money to spend, I'll make up a number, but it's pretty close, $18 per student. On rough numbers, $18,000, I'm sorry, per student per year, where Bridgeport would be maybe $7 less than that, $11, $12 per student. Lisette's in the front row. Am I close? Okay, so we don't have, so the other thing is, do we rely more heavily, which we do, on property taxes, which is a regressive tax? You understand what I mean by regressive? Meaning it's not really fair. Hurts those that are least able to pay. Do we rely more on a regressive tax system in Connecticut, which we do, to fund public education and city governments? And the answer is unfortunately not by our desire, but the answer is yes. So we end up with this kind of, if you live in a rich town, you get a lot more money, or if you end up being to the benefit of the system, you end up with more money. We're part of a law, so part of your answer is this. We're part of a lawsuit. It's a subsequent lawsuit to one that I led years back against this formula to say, wait a minute, time out. Students in the Bridgeport school system deserve, not only deserve because it's us, but are entitled, as a matter of Connecticut Constitution, to the same quality of education that a student does, as a child does, in the richest community in this state. And we take the next argument and say that the only way to do that, or one of the most effective ways, is through funding. Not the only way. You could still get good quality. It doesn't have to be dollar for dollar. But there's no, really, if you look at all the studies, money is a huge factor. Now, we're doing great things in the Bridgeport public school system, despite being underfunded dramatically, even compared to some of the other cities. So we're fighting that battle on that level, and I am working in partnership, probably not doing as much as some would like in committing resources to the education side of the budget, but I am working in partnership with the superintendent to try and meet some of those needs. And there's a whole host of kind of sub-issues on special education, how that's funded, and different things like that, how we do more on a regionalized basis with regional schools in order to capture a greater percentage of funding. So that's some of the challenges. On a positive note, and I'll end with this, on the education question, we've just, and I'll take some credit for this because we put the plan in place when I was mayor, we put about $1 billion plan in place to rebuild on a prioritized basis every and any school, or build new schools in the city of Bridgeport where we needed them. And over that period of time, and I'll give credit to my successors and now predecessors, because I both the bookends on the last dozen years or so, we have built some new state-of-the-art schools, and that progress continues both at Central High School now. Roosevelt School over here is new. Harding High School is slated for a new location and a new school. So the physical buildings, not the answer to the quality of education and the percentage of students that go on to college, or against the percentages that drop out, or the student-teacher ratio, but the buildings themselves, the physical structures, at the very least, in addition to everything else, I think we can speak very favorably about at least the results more recently.
We take one more question because we want to have time to enjoy the snacks that the deans put out for us. So,
Two more.
Okay, I'll make this quick. The concern that I have concerning the education, because I'm just finishing up my doctoral degree in leadership and curriculum instruction, and by substituting in the system from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade, I've noticed a lot of things that, a lot of waste, a lot of things that could be fixed. But then too, like you said, there are really some good schools that are really run well, but then there are schools that are very unsafe. I've been hit with things by students. Apples, you know, they're throwing different things at you and whatever. And I always say safety first.
Yeah, safety first.
We all know that we read that book to our children, safety first. And so I'm very concerned about the safety factor, that it has to be safe for children, everyone in the school system, it has to be safe across the board. So basically, that's all I have to say about that.
No, and I agree with you. We're not getting into chapter and verse on how we do that, and the chief's nodding, but I think we have a good coordinated effort. Is it perfect? No. There's things that go on that are not, with safety meaning some of it's law enforcement, some of it's breaking the rules that doesn't rise to that level, and I think there's a combination of both. Certainly we have those challenges in our school, and I don't know, I've never been met with a situation where when it's been brought to the attention of whatever level of authority there is, whether it's a supervisor or administrator, that it hasn't been dealt with all the way up to the superintendent. I know, so that will, at least whatever role I play in that will continue, and I know with our other departments as well. Sue, do you want to can we take one more, or you want to wrap?
one. There was.
Marco, you could ask me a question anytime.
I don't want to ask you a question now.
All right.
Hi, my name is Chindu Noodle. My family's we've been longtime residents of Bridgeport. Graduate of Sacred Heart University. Currently graduate student here.
What?
Former city employee.
Are you one of Professor Katz's students?
Oh, no, Professor Katz.
Okay.
Was over on the other side of the room.
Okay.
My question is, in light of my time here in Bridgeport, one thing that seems to happen over the last 15 years is that there seems to be communication that occurs through administration, but it's usually on more formal lines. What is your office's goal in terms of finding ways to engage those people within the social capital that are not being utilized? And I mean this in terms of input from students regarding their own education. What level of engagement do we expect to see in terms of neighborhood zones and communication on what's going to occur? And how will you increase the flow of communication of opportunities to other residents? Because in my experience, there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of programs we have here, but no one knows about it. In my time working for the city underneath the teen pregnancy program, almost everyone I spoke to never heard of almost any program that was available, whether it's through the state or through the city. So what will you do to address this problem?
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that we do need to have a better internal inventory, and John's looking at me, we're thinking about this, I think Alma is too, of those positive programs that we do have, because, I mean, it sounds stupid to say, but if they're there and you don't know about them, it's like they're not even there. And we know we certainly don't have enough in a variety of areas. So those that we do have, we do need to get that out. So we got to think that through a little bit as we kind of get our arms around some of the things, some of the challenges. On a more a different part of your question about how we're communicating, I will say on a critical level, and this probably hasn't been published, but it's not a big deal whether it is or it isn't, when we first came in office, following some of the more difficult months with violence, with young kids. I'm not going to say gangs. I don't think these are really gangs. These are kids. These are groups. I mean, we challenged ourselves to reach beyond with the police department. We recommitted to the concept, and then the answer is not all policing, but I want to touch on this, to community policing. which is, hey man, this isn't us chasing you or coming after on a call. This is figuring out what's going on, and we want to be a part of this, and how do we deal with this, and how do we get beyond a guy in blue, throwing the siren on. But the more important step to that was talking about a summit or groups coming together in a positive way so that I could understand, and people that I'm working with could understand, part of the administration, what's going on with young people today, much younger than college students. You know what I'm talking about. And why is it that why there's so many guns out there? Why does everybody feel like they have to have something to protect themselves, and what that leads to, and the recklessness and the short-sightedness because of youth and adolescence that lead to so much violence. And we had those. I had a group from each of the high schools come, and they were just gathered up, and they came to what's called the mayor's conference room. And we sat there, and we shut the doors. We played some YouTube stuff, and what did that mean? And then we tried to get a better understanding. Nobody putting anything out there that they couldn't pull back, and just talking through what's going on in the street between one neighborhood and another neighborhood, and why is that going on now, and where are we lacking, and where can we do a better job as adults? Forget about as mayors and police chiefs and even teachers, but just as adults to understand and to try and develop a better communication. So we started that. We didn't finish it, but that's kind of a lower, but I think a critical level. And to your other one, we just need to, I'm glad you brought it up, because the positive programs, the one you worked in and others, if we can get that information out, I think we should. Sue, we're good?
Yeah.
Let me just say this to you, Professor Katz, to the administration here, to the president, to the university, and to all that came and spent some time tonight. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for, kind of bringing up stuff and somewhat, in a way, challenging our discussion. It's important. And to the university as a whole, I said this before, I'm a product of the university, of the law school, 4 brothers, sister as well. So I've been students here. Thank the university for that, and for being a continued partner through each of you and through its leadership in the South End and in the city. So with that, I think we can hit the wine and the cheese and everything else. Thank you so much.